Coffee is a big part of my day. Not only does it help me get through the morning, but I just really love good coffee. Trade is a subscription service that brings great coffee from indie roasters all over the country right to your door. Tell Trade what you like typically. Single origins, blends, dark or light roasts, or even how you make your coffee, and they'll recommend the right beans for you. Or you can choose from over 450 different coffees and build your own queue. Then you select how often you'd like your coffee delivered, whether that be 7 days, 10 days, 14 days. Shipping's always free. If you find that you have too many beans and you need to skip a delivery, you can do that. Running out sooner than you think and need an order sooner, you can do that as well. No charge. I've done it myself a couple times. It's great to know that I have that flexibility. Go to unitedwedrink.com/trade and get started with Trade and enjoy 30% off your first month. That's unitedwedrink.com/trade. The opinions and statements in this podcast do not represent those of the host's employers, co-workers, family, or imaginary friends. Now enjoy the show.
Happy hour, more like amateur hour. Welcome to United We Drink.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another new episode of the United We Drink podcast right here on unitedwedrink.com, as well as Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and wherever fine podcasts are found. My name is Mike Urevich. I don't have anything funny or any banter there. With me, as always, is my friends, my fellow human beings, Tim Johnson, Kevin Abbott. How are you guys doing today?
Tim?
This machine fights fascists, and by this machine I mean this whistle. So yeah,
Very often, because all three of us can be not in real life, but definitely for entertainment purposes, a little bit curmudgeonly.
of course.
And I feel like very often we get on here and I'm complaining about being sick or having some problem at the brewery or blah blah blah. And if you listen to our last episode and heard Tim's last call, things like what's going on in his neck of the woods really put shit in perspective. So, Mike, when you got in there and you're like, I don't have anything funny or interesting to say or whatever, I'm thinking, I got no fucking complaints. I mean, I have personal complaints. I have serious complaints about this country, and I have serious complaints because I have basic human empathy for other human beings. But, from the story that Tim just told us, chasing fascists out of his neighborhood with a whistle, I'm like, fuck, I'm the luckiest man in the world. And I'm going to drink this Pilsner and bask in that, at least for a little bit, before I get back to being depressed and hating everything.
It sounds perfect. I very much look forward to drinking a couple beers with you gentlemen tonight.
Well, let's talk about what these couple beers are. Tim, what are you having?
We brought it up on the podcast a little bit ago, but I'm having a garage beer.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I decided to go garage beer. Just go, nice and simple, something nice and enjoyable, nothing too heavy, since I do have to be up in, I don't know what, 7 hours for work. So, looking forward to that. But yeah, I thought I'd have something good to pair with my peanut butter sandwich. I don't want to brag about how much money I have, but I'm drinking a cheap beer and eating peanut butter sandwiches. So
that's a beer I feel like I should have in my fridge a little more often. I only had it for the first time like over the Christmas break, when we went to a Christmas party where there was no beer, and I'm like, okay, but they lived right next door to a liquor store, so I just walked over there and I bought a 12-pack of Sierra Pale and I bought a 12-pack of garage beer because it was $14 for a 12-pack. So I'm like, okay, this can be the light beer option, and then we have a hoppy option. And I was like, this is a pretty damn good beer.
Yeah,
Like,
I was pleasantly surprised the first time I had it to the point where I decided to get it again because it seems like kind of the perfect beer to just kind of do things around the house. I'm not doing anything around the house right now, but in theory I was going to be cleaning. So here's to all the cleaning I'm not doing.
I came across I was doing some research for lager brands with like visuals and stuff, and I came across this 2019 article from Paste magazine with like ranking like 100 or something uh American lagers, and Garage Beer was on there with their original branding, which like it was still a labeled can, a 16-ounce can that still had Braxton Brewing, their parent company, very
Mhm.
highly shown on there, which is not on there anymore. Before it became like a standalone brand of its own. So it was kind of funny to see it in that, and it was like in the top 15 on there too. But to just see it, the same stylized garage beer, but a label on a can and Braxton Brewing on the can, I was like, oh, see how far they've come since then.
Yeah, well, yeah, I'm telling you, it's treating me well.
Kevin, what are you
My
having?
Well, n- uh, because I'm feeling a little better today, not unlike the infamous El Guapo, I have a plethora of beer options here. I just finished up Sierra Nevada Pills, these little adorable 8-ounce cans. This is my first one of these. Absolutely delicious. But Great Lakes is finally down here in full force. They had their Christmas beer down. I had it. I picked up today at the store Dortmunder Gold, Elliot Ness, Conway's Irish Stout, Conway's Irish Ale, and Irish Lager. One of those was an Irish beer mix pack. I bet you can't guess which ones. But I have these delicious beers. Now, I've had Elliot Ness and Dortmunder Gold a million times, especially Dortmunder Gold. I sing the praises of constantly. But I think I'm going to go with the Irish Lager next. And we're going to see how many of these I get through and how drunk I am by last call. It's a fun game everyone should be able to play every week.
Let's see if you can get as drunk as I was at the end of last episode. When I was editing that, I was like, oh my God, I am wasted. Um, uh, I had their Christmas ale during the Christmas break. Dixie Bar and Grill had it on tap, and I don't know if that was my first time having it, but if it was fantastic. I really enjoyed it. I'm having a new beer that we made at Copper Point called Snowbird's Descent. It's a new IPA that we did, and I did the label, and it's a bunch of northern uh, license plates that I just put a bunch of slang and jargon on them. Plates that you would see down here during the winter. Kevin, I do have a Michigan one on there for you that says Party Store, and because you taught me about what party stores are, and actually when I looked up like Michigan slang, Michigan jargon, Party Store was one of the first things that came up there.
I mean, someone has to teach you this really, really important stuff. So I'm glad that I was the one to be able to do it.
I also have to back it up. Celebration. Because my
Surprise.
over the weekend, my wife went to Whole Foods to do some grocery shopping, and she texted me, "They still have Celebration," and I was like, "Yes, please." And had a couple over the weekend, and it still tastes fantastic.
So I know we're going to get into the topic of the show, but I actually wanted I screenshotted a post from from the social medias from last week that I wanted to share with Tim and get his opinion on. And now that we're talking about Michigan slang and whatnot, I thought this would be a good time to do it. So this is from the Midwest versus the Rest, which is a really fun Instagram account. and it's the most underrated cities in the Midwest. And I wanted to get your opinion on this, Tim. Do you agree with this? Number 10, La Crosse, Wisconsin. Number 9, Rochester, Minnesota. Number 8, Madison, Wisconsin. Number 7, Mankato, Minnesota.
Mankato.
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 Mankato. Number 6, Fort Wayne, Indiana. Number 5, Toledo, Ohio. Number 6, Sioux Falls, South Dakota. Then we got Des Moines, Iowa, Grand Rapids, Michigan, and Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Now, there's a couple from your state there. You do know the area. Do you agree, disagree? Any beefs with this list?
Yeah. If that's ranked in order, that's all off. I'll put La Crosse and Madison way higher on the list. I'll also put Des Moines higher on the list. Obviously, I'm biased being from Iowa,
was
but
3.
I actually think that is it.
That was number 3.
I think that's true. If that's number 3, that's probably good. I think that's a pretty hip city. I think Milwaukee's too big to be on that list. I don't know why anyone would want to go to Sioux Falls unless they hate themselves. So I wouldn't put that on the list. Rochester is okay. I'm not in love with that town. Mankato is cool. Mankato is cool if you like college hockey. Grand Rapids obviously great town as well. Yeah, I don't know that I hate that list. I can think of things that should be on there in place of some of those for sure. But at least La Crosse and Madison made the list, so I do like that.
I'm just glad that this is the kind of commentary you need on United We Drink, and that's what I'm here to help bring you, everyone.
I'm not a Midwesterner. I've only been to one of those cities, Milwaukee being that, and I loved it. I thought that Milwaukee was such a way better city than I even imagined it would be. I felt like, is Madison that underrated? Because I see so much write-ups about how awesome Madison is. And I follow a few people from Madison on Blue Sky who are great people. I know they have an awesome beer scene, an awesome food scene. So it just made me think, not only are they 9, but I'm like, are they really underrated? Because it seems like I see so much write-up about them. But
no, that's probably fair. I still think maybe when people are thinking about them, they don't, just because of size, they don't get a ton of love, and maybe because they have such a good beer scene. I think you probably know a little bit more than maybe people outside of the beer scene or college football scene. I think probably, I don't know if
that's true.
They care. Yeah, I don't know if they care as much about Madison, but yeah, I think that is a fair quibble. Like I said, I wouldn't put Milwaukee as overrated, as much as I do love that city and have had a quite
underrated
great time there. Or yeah, underrated. I mean, yeah. I do think that is I wouldn't necessarily call it underrated, but it is good. Although I did almost get into a race related fight there with a couple of people with white supremacist tattoos. So that might color my opinion of that city a little bit. Yeah, that's a story for another day.
That's for our other podcast. Tim's racist experiences. No, that's not a good.
That doesn't sound good at all.
No. Encounters.
Yeah,
that works better. I'm workshopping this in live, right?
Yeah, this is not going well. I suggest we maybe move on.
Okay. So we're going to move on to our topic. We decided today, in the dead of winter, to talk about beer fests, because as strange as it might sound to maybe some Northerners, this is basically beer fest season for us in Florida. A lot of the bigger beer fests tend to happen during the winter when it's a little less hot and humid out. Probably one of our biggest ones just happened this past weekend in Jupiter, Florida, the Jupiter Craft Brewers Festival. not nearly as many beer festivals as there used to be. Uh, I feel like when winter came around, when it was at the first brewery, you pretty much had one every week, or at least one every week that was trying to get you to come out to them. All some of them with the we'll buy beer, some of them with we need you to donate beer, but you're going to get the exposure. Think about the exposure that you're going to get. Now, Kevin, I don't directly deal with beer fest related stuff much anymore. What do you deal with those at Barrel of Monks? Like with accepting those, saying no to those?
I'm the main person for all that, and I have been for now going on almost 8 years of doing this. Yeah, I suggested this because we've had a run, and I think you're right, Mike. I don't think there's as many beer fests as there were, but I think also because you're not dealing with them directly, and maybe maybe Matt turned down so many of them over the years that you're not getting as many contacts. You could still pretty much do something resembling a beer fest every weekend. Now, it might not just be a straight craft beer fest. It might be a wing and beer thing, or it might be
Yeah.
a hotel's specialty beer thing that they're doing. There's always something, and I'm getting propositioned constantly. And for years and years, I did them all because my philosophy was beer is relatively cheap to make, and the exposure will be great for us and visibility and yada yada yada. And that's just all bullshit. And I can say that, maybe not for every brewery. All I can do is say it for myself. I actually ran a bunch of numbers recently, and I can get into that a little bit later on. And from the best I can tell, we've never sold one extra drop of beer because we went to a beer fest. And I have a couple measurements that I can pull from that, and maybe I'm missing something. And I also can say maybe our beer just sucks, so people try it and then they don't want to drink it elsewhere. But this whole thing where you get exposure, at the end of the day, I got to pay to have the beer. I have to pay someone to go do it. And all I'm doing is doing that so that other people can make money. And I had a kind of a rough interaction with someone recently where I was saying, "No, I'm not gonna do this event." And then they said, "Well, you can just send beer." And I said, "I'm not sending any beer. Are you buying the beer? Then if you wanna buy beer and you wanna pour it, absolutely. In fact, I'll give you a good price on it, right? Like, I'll figure something out." And they said, "Oh, no, no, this is for exposure. This helps you out." And I said, "This doesn't help me at all. There's zero benefit." "Oh, well, all of our other breweries get a lot of benefit." I'm like, "All your other breweries might think they get a benefit, but I've been in this industry for 15 years and I know what the numbers are, and they just don't." And there was a kind of a contentious kind of thing. But there still is most of the people that are doing these and putting these on, I think genuinely believe that they're doing something beneficial for us. But even though our numbers are down from last year slightly, only about 1.5%, which is really good for us in distribution considering everything going on in the industry. We've never done less beer events, beer tastings, and we're doing about as good as we possibly can be. Are those two things completely correlated? No, probably not. Things are more complicated than that. But it's certainly, I don't think it's hurting us.
Yeah. You know, I think we do probably less than 5 beer fests during this time. We've definitely done some more like things that you would probably like you were saying that could somewhat resemble a mini beer fest that like we did a music festival last year with like they actually were serving our beer that you could buy a pint and stuff, but we had a table set up where we were sampling beers there as well because we were like a sponsor for that. So it was like a thing that kind of goes in line with some of that, but I mean, I think we're doing a beer festival this weekend, and that's probably it for the foreseeable future. I didn't see anything else on our calendars, but I mean, it's a funny thing. This one that's coming up, I think it was either last year or the year before. We were doing it. I wasn't, but like people that were that work for us were there, and that night I got a angry DM from someone that was at that beer festival who was like, I was at the Wellington Beer Festival and I really wanted to try your beers, but by the time I went over to your booth, you were out of beer. How dare you show up here and not bring enough beer? And I was like, So I asked, like, what the people who went, like, when did you guys run out of beer? Oh, like a half hour before the end of the festival. I'm like, okay, 4-hour festival. So 3.5 hours in, you guys kicked 4 slims. All right. Like, no big deal. So I responded to the message on Monday and was like, very sorry that you missed a chance at having our beer. I understand that we ran out about a half hour before the festival. We brought the amount of beer that we were asked to bring. You can always come visit our tap room. We're only about like 20 minutes away from the festival. And I'm like, that's way too far away. This was right down the street from our house. We'll never come see you. I'm like, okay. All right, no problem. Sweet. Like, you waited 3.5 hours to go try some beer from a brewery that you really wanted to try. Like, I didn't twist that way, but man, I so wanted to be like that. Like, come on, man. You obviously were drunk and wanted to start a fight with a brewery on a fucking Saturday night on Instagram. Go fuck yourself.
Well, I mean, we're seeing that a lot right now, right? Because a lot of breweries around here have shared their support for the community and shut down during our large citywide business strike events, and you're getting a lot of messages where I'm like, okay, Bill in Pequot Lakes, you are really going to come down to the city and be a regular at this brewery that's 3 hours from your house. Thank you very much for expressing your opinion that you will no longer visit this.
It's like we're dealing with sports talk radio listeners.
Yeah. 1,000%.
Which, by the way, I just want to say real quick, Tim, I started following. I've never had a drop of liquid from them, but I've started following years ago. Wooden Ship, from up there, because they were on bitter units and loved. It was Adam, right? And I loved listening to their story, and I follow them ever since. And their posts.
It was Josh is who we had on.
Josh. So Adam was the one who had a brewery that closed, or wasn't it?
Yeah. Adam was Northgate.
That's right.
Yes.
That's right.
Anyway, yeah.
But anyway, I mean, they are the epitome of of a brewery that I would want to open, of like being so hardcore into their community. And I love their response to everything that they've been putting out. I hate that they have to deal with it. I hate that any of you up there have to deal with what's going on. But man, they are like just a beacon of hope for the brewing industry, I think, in general, not just for Minneapolis, but I just love what they do.
And not to like shit on their cred by any means, but they're in Linden Hills, which is one of the most affluent neighborhoods in the city. They're not in the heart of all of this stuff. Like when you see some of the stuff that like what Arbiter is, which is like right down the road from the 4th precinct that also experienced all the George Floyd riots and uprising. I hate to use riots, but that was the language of the unheard at that point. But a lot of that unrest there. Some of these other Venn is right, like right on the light rail, right down from the Whipple. People literally go from Venn to the Whipple to protest, or from the Whipple to Venn, just a light rail, one stop down the road type of thing. So you're seeing a lot of these breweries do that. And that, again, not to take away from Josh and Suresh and the folks over there at Wooden Ship, because I do love them very much, and I am very proud that they're a part of the community. But you're seeing so many breweries around town that are doing that, and it is really, really, truly incredible.
Yeah. All right, back on topic. So
what I wanted to follow up with that, Mike, is that we all have stories, and I think over all the years we've been doing the show, a lot of them have come out. But excuse me for that. I've been still dealing with the freaking cold. Customers, if you want to put it that way, at beer fests tend to be some of the most entitled and
Oh yeah.
unrealistic, uneducated people possible. And some of it I want to chalk up to the fact that they don't know how any of this works. Um,
hmm
a lot of beer fests that used to buy beer don't buy beer anymore. So there used to be a decent amount of people that would do it, especially at the big, really like national fest that people would fly in for, would buy beer. But even some local ones, I mean, Jupiter Beer Fest, they used to buy beer. I don't know how they work for you, but they haven't bought beer from me in a long time. Um, and I love Fran and I love you and Jupiter, and we'll do Jupiter every year because it's a legacy event. But at the end of the day, it would be nice if they would support the breweries a little bit and buy beer because they're making money off this thing. So I don't know that a customer doesn't think that we are there selling beer. They don't realize that this is basically volunteer stuff and donations. And it's basically when we send people there, it's like, hey, bring what they asked you to bring. And like you said, half an hour before the fest, kick it, get the hell out of there. It's Saturday. You're working on your off day in the first place, and you shouldn't have to stick around there all day, right? But people have this thing where it's like, well, I'm here now, and I paid this very small amount for all I can drink. And that doesn't just mean everything that's available to me now. That means whatever I want that I saw earlier. And it's impractical for so many reasons. If you buy a food and wine thing in South Beach, some of the restaurants run out of the shrimp crostini because that's the nature of things. They run out. Things are not infinite. A person cannot bring infinity beer to a beer event because it's an impossible thing. So, but you get this. Not only are they frustrating, not only are they expensive, not only are they tedious for our people to do, but having to deal with the public in this situation with this gimme, gimme, gimme attitude, and then have the other aspect, which is give me something dark. Oh, hello. I have a porter and give me something dark. Okay. That mentality or "Ugh, nothing but IPAs, huh? No, this is actually a Belgian wheat beer. Yeah, IPAs. Okay, sir. Here's something. Having to deal with that on top of all of it is another reason why I think people are abandoning them. And I'm seeing more and more smaller breweries who are really desperate to get any kind of visibility are coming out and doing these things like still feverishly, while other breweries are just kind of abandoning it and going, well, what are we really losing if we're not going to be here? Probably a lot less headaches.
yeah,
I do like that you said "unpossible" because it did make me think of my favorite
That's
Three
on.
Amigos quote. Since you went with Three Amigos earlier, of
it's my
infamous
favorite
wins leads
meatless burger.
more than famous.
I was thinking more of Ralph Wiggum. That's impossible. Me fail
Oh,
English, but
oh, I like that too. No,
goes
I
with
was
my brain.
I think just because you primed me with the Three Amigos, and also, uh, please name a beer. Do you want to kiss me on the veranda? No, no, the lips would be fine. I think would be a good way to a beer name. Just free advice.
That's a good name. One other thing I'll mention, and I kind of teased this earlier on, but I was talking about kind of like looking at metrics. The only metrics that I can really think to check would be something like Mike. You talk about Wellington, right? You go to the beer fest in Wellington. I've got sales data. I can see if we sold any extra beer at Whole Foods or Fresh Market, or if any other bars increased their sales at a regular accounts for us in Wellington. I can see, hey, what did they do, March this year, and what did they do in April after this event was done? I've actually, for shits and giggles, looked back and checked, just randomly checked, hey, around Jupiter Beer Fest, do we sell any more beer in Jupiter after that? Never. And we're in a good amount of places up in Jupiter. Not a lot. We're not in Publix there, right? We're not in the grocery store chains, but we had, when Sprouts was still around, we were in Sprouts, and we do sell beer in Fresh Market, and we do sell beer in some of the draft locations. As anyone that I have thought to check, I've never seen a situation where we've sold more beer in those areas, right, after that event. The other way that I can check it is we hand out free draft cards, specifically for places that are within driving distance. I would not hand out free draft cards in Key West Beer Fest because no one's driving up to Boca from Key West, or people are coming from all over the place. But we hand out draft cards when we do the Wellington Beer Fest, and I'll put Wellington on the card. And we count how many we get back. 0. No one brings them in. We did a beer fest, the burger battle in Boca, and I gave out over 2,000 free draft cards in Boca Raton, 5 minutes from my brewery. We got back 3. Now, before someone screaming into their, device of choice, oh, maybe your beer sucks, and if you were a good beer, they would try it and come get it. Fine, fair enough. Maybe that's the prime mover of this situation. But at the end of the day, these people are not going there to find their new favorite beer. They're going there because it's $50 and they want to hang out with their friends. They don't remember what they drank. They're not looking to find a hidden gem and then go frequent your business forever. That does not happen. It's never probably happened. Maybe in more sophisticated beer markets it happens, but I think it's bullshit. And if my one little experience is evidence of that, and maybe I'm an outlier, but that's how it's the only way I can quantify it, and it don't look good.
No, I think that's a universal experience, Kevin. Honestly, the number of beer fests that we've had here in the Twin Cities is back down considerably. The Minnesota Craft Brewers Guild used to put on Winterfest. They haven't done that in a few years. Beer Dabbler is still doing their Winter Dabbler, but I think last year, did they only do Pride Dabbler and not Summer Dabbler? They might only be down to Pride Dabbler and Winter Dabbler now. And a lot of the other smaller ones
Sounds like too much daddling.
I'm a little worried you're having a stroke. You keep saying a word over and over again, and you don't know the
Daddler. Daddler. Do you smell toast?
No, dabbler with the
dabbler, like you're dabbling in something.
Oh, dabbler.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Still doesn't sound good.
Yeah. Well, I dabble.
Dabble a little bit in this beer.
But
I consider myself a dabbler.
No, a lot of like beer fests were a lot. First of all, for the longest time, I think they were more just for like a way to reward staff, or like it used to be like 15 years ago. The beer fest actually had like a brewer working the booth or an owner working the booth. And then as the thing got more mature, then a lot of times it's a guy that maybe it's someone who works in the tap room, maybe it's someone not even affiliated. There's so many of these damn things that a lot of times it's just like distributor reps now that are working them too. So they're not even, they just kind of fell out of popularity. But then, but no, I would say universally, I don't think anyone sees their brand being made by being at one of those things. I don't think people feel like there's a return on investment. And towards the end of my time, like I tried to officially retire from working any beer festival in like 2019. I decided I was just done with them. But even towards the end there, like I was always jealous of the people who ran out of beer first, not because I thought that they had the best, but because that just meant they could
leave.
They got to pack up and go home. Like I remember one year, I think it was Inbound, like literally halfway through the fest, they clearly didn't bring enough. They did not care, and I was like, damn it, that's kind of smart. But yeah, no, I don't think anyone needs any real return on those things. I think people like to think they do, but I think your strategy of riding on the draft card, what it was and getting it back, I think that's a pretty universal experience, honestly.
Here's a confession of really trying to get the fuck out of a a beer fest as soon as I could. Was working a beer fest at the fairgrounds that they did for a few years a beer fest that was 2 sessions. They had an early afternoon and then an evening session. So for this beer fest, if I remember right, they brought in 3 slims of 4 brands to split between 2 sessions. So essentially, you would think 1.5 slims per session. I was working the daytime session, and I'm like, this is fucking lame. I started pouring heavy on all of my samples. And as soon as I kicked a keg, I'm like, I'm not putting on the other one. Like, nope, it's done. It's done. It's done. Oh, I kicked four slims. I can go home with like an hour and a half left of the fucking thing, and I left 2 slims each for the people working the second session, which they ran out of too, if I remember right. But I was like, I need to get out of here. This just needs to end. So my confession of just gaming the system and pouring heavy and just not caring.
Well, one of the things, and we don't always have like a positive spin on things because we're us, but if we want to look at what can breweries do or what is a good strategy for your time and energy, I think there's things that you can do, and there's things that we have kind of pivoted to. One of them is we do have accounts, like for instance, the Boca Resort. It's called the Boca Raton now. It'll always be the Boca Resort for me. We do their house beer. I want to say they bought like 1,500 cases last year or something like that. And that's just on package. We have tons of draft. I mean, volume wise, they're our number one account, right? Just with the amount of, for like at least an individual account, not necessarily a chain. I can't have to look at what Trader Joe's did last year. Anyway, it doesn't matter. We sell them a lot of beer. So when they say, hey, come to our event and pour some beer for us, they're buying thousands and thousands of dollars worth of product. Absolutely. It's worth our time. It's worth our energy. Even if we pour 25 samples because it's a beer and wine and burger tasting and we're going to not be the focus, we're showing them support and they more than make up for it in all the business that they give us. And we are showing them some love as well. Now that's an account that has come to us. You can go to accounts. You can go to your best accounts and say, "Hey, we'd like to do something with you. Let's set up some kind of tasting and we'll do some specialty beers. I mean, beer dinners are completely out of favor now, so I'm not suggesting that, but there are ways to do that and do these kind of events with your best accounts to solidify them in their minds and show that you're there for them and you're there to support them. And that is a good, in my opinion, it can be a good return on investment for it. The other thing you can do is get together with some of your buddies in your local, local municipality and just demand that people buy the fucking beer. Because these people are putting on these fests and they need 20, 30 breweries to come out. And if no one will come out and just give them beer, they're either going to buy it or they're going to stop doing the events. And they're too profitable. They're not, they're, listen, some of these things are for charities and directly for charities. And if that's the case, do them. Give them the beer if you can't send somebody. We do that all the time, right? If I can legitimately say that all the money for this event is going to a local charity, great. But if these are for profits that have a charity link to it, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, and they give them $50 and they put 10 grand in their pocket or whatever the hell it is, that's still valuable if they buy $3,000 worth of beer. So force them to do it. And if enough people stand up and say, we're not doing this anymore, they're going to come back to you and say, hey, we'll do a 50-50 split. We'll buy 3 slims if you donate 3. If we get to that point, it might start making some sense again. So we do have some power in this industry as brewers. And I think, Tim, you've talked about this like ad nauseum, like, we pigeonhole ourselves when we say like, we're the working man's thing. We're an affordable luxury. We dumb ourselves down and act like what we bring to the table isn't valuable, that we are just happy to beg for scraps and, oh, just give us a little bit of visibility and then we'll show up and we'll do anything you want. Demand more for yourself. Our brewers
So
are amazing, and our work and our product is good, and we work our asses off. So demand people actually pay you something for it. That's one way to go about it.
so Kevin, what you're proposing is that breweries come together and collectively bargain with these events to get more money. Um, I feel like there's something we could call this. It's like they're uniting under, like, I don't know, a union or something. I don't know. Maybe I'll have to spitball this a bit more.
Don't
Um,
don't
but I
use
like
the
where you're
name.
heading.
Don't use the name of a bad faction from the Attitude Era to come up with a group for a group name for our brewery conglomeration. Uh, yeah, it's
Forgot
almost
all
like
about that faction.
it's almost like when we actually get together and demand, something decent for ourselves, and don't just say me, 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 me. Maybe we get a little bit more. But I do think it's something that we should all. We're doing it out of necessity in some ways. We don't have the manpower, and I'm refusing to spend the money on something that, as I've said, there's no ROI on. But I would be more open to it if it was a little more of a collaboration and we saw things. Share an email list, right? There's other things you can ask of these venues, of these places. What you can ask them, what else you have to offer me? What else can you, other than exposure? This happened on social media, and I haven't seen it in a while. I also don't. I'm not active on social media, but you have all these like in people that are like, oh, I want you to bake a cake for my wedding, and I'm a influencer. So if you give it to me for free, I'll expose you to all these people, and you get all these wonderful replies calling that person an asshole. It's the same fucking thing. I'm going to expose you to all these people. How? In what way? In what way do I make money? So ask them, do you have an email list that I can use? Is there any other events that you do because you're an event company later on in the year where we can do something? Is there an event you can bring to my brewery and we can do an event around the brewery and then bring in other things? Like, get creative and ask for something that actually benefits you instead of just blindly going, oh, thank you for thinking of us.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
So,
like that you brought that up. I was gonna bring up the whole influencer culture thing. Like, I appreciate that there has been a backlash in the last few years on influencer culture, if I could speak. Um, uh, that is a really, really great point of pushing back on it, not just on Instagram, but pushing back on it for all of these other places that, 5 years ago could get away with saying they were going to give you exposure, and now that that's no longer, that's just not the case.
like, I think that there's still something to, like, some of these influencer things, but, like, I was talking with a local business recently. I won't name them just for the sake of, like, they might not want this conversation to have been out there, but talked about some influencer stuff because they had some people who do blogs and like Instagram accounts come in without their knowledge, come in, have some food, do a write up, and got them exposed to like 20,000 new people that started just like popping up in their feed, like, oh, hey, and the person never asked for any food to be comped, never asked for anything like that, but they would be considered like kind of influencers of sorts, and like so much so that the business reached out to the person, was like, hey, thank you for that. If you're in the area again, I would love to buy you dinner. And they're like, oh, cool, yeah. And then they had some other people go, I'd like to come in. Could you like buy me a beer? I'll buy the food. And like, so it seems like some of these people are maybe have gotten the hint and are like, I'm not going to ask for the world from these places. I'm not going to ask them to pay me. Maybe they can comp me an appetizer or they can comp me a beer or two. We had some people ask to do stuff for us and they were like, hey, can you buy us around? Like, sure. We'll buy you around. They came in, did a video. I don't know how much we actually got from it, but it seemed in good faith. A lot more than like I know Kevin and I have talked about people who have approached us before and wanted like crazy amounts of money for just to make a post about us. Like it's no, not doing that.
Well, from my experience with that, Mike, and I think it is fair. And I know I mentioned the influencer thing, but you guys both kind of jumping on that. They're all in the same realm, right? We're all talking about this idea of exposure. You should be lucky to be here. We're giving you something when you're really giving nothing, because at the end of the day, you can't pay your employees with good intentions, and exposure, you pay them with money. And we need to find some way to put ROI on stuff. I think the entire beer fest culture and the influencer culture as well has been built, and all these things are built on like continuous growth and, just having all these people that are willing to do anything to get exposure because they are a tiny voice trying to, be recognized out of the noise. Back in the day, the early beer fest, like the New Times Beer Fest, had like Budweiser. There wasn't anything there because there were no craft breweries. It was like 6 macro breweries and 4, national craft brands, and that was it. And then you had all these local breweries. Well, guess what? They're all fucking closing. I know this isn't in our neck of the woods, Mike, but Intuition Ale Works up in Jacksonville, they're closing down now.
Yeah.
And that's a brewery that was pretty big and pretty well known. They've been around for a while. They're falling off like flies because there was never any sustainability in this. And these beer fests are saying, well, they're going to eventually look up and go, there's no one here left.
If only we had done the New Times Beer Festival, we would be A-okay.
But you know what I'm saying? Like you need a ripe population of breweries to sustain these things. And these influencers, it's very similar. They were going to businesses like mine, my little business, and saying, give us 10 grand for 3 posts. There is no world in which I will ever see a fraction of that money back from your post, because your post goes out to a bunch of foodies and most of them live in California. But they're so unrealistic and know nothing about our business that they think they can sustain themselves when they've already exhausted all the big brands. So they're still trying to pull money from small brands, not realizing we're in a different business. So maybe they are coming back down to earth because it's like, well, I still need content. And these guys don't have the deep pockets that are going to sustain me. And I don't have this infinite growth model. And Budweiser already paid me. So, and they're not going to do it again. So I think that there is this kind of rubber band effect of, the market grows and people take advantage of that market. And then when the market shrinks, these people are going, well, we were counting on making 30,000. There's a group of people down here that do like 7 beer fests in the state of Florida, and they've been doing it for several years. They have these things scheduled. They have infrastructure put in place. If they don't get the right amount of people to every one of those events, they're going to end up losing money. What are they going to do when no one wants to come to their beer fests anymore? When the population is tired of it, when there's breweries that don't want to do them anymore? They've built a foundation on something that is just not sustainable.
So I sent you guys a link to this before the show because this just came out yesterday. The biggest beer fest, really, Great American Beer Festival, announced that they are changing up how the festival is. They are moving the fest from the location of the Colorado Convention Center in downtown Denver that they've been in since, I think, 2000, I was reading, to a new outdoor venue, the Levitt Pavilion. It's about, I think, 5 miles south of the convention center. And instead of a multi-day thing like they had Thursday, Friday, 2 sessions on Saturday, it's going to be a Saturday session and a Sunday session. Huge changes for the biggest beer fest out there. What were your thoughts when you first like read that?
I mean, I
Don't
guess
all jump in at once,
no.
please,
I was gonna
please.
say for me it
I just
was
feel like I've been
I
talking too
guess
much, so I wanted Tim to talk.
oh no no I guess I sort of felt like I'm not surprised. Like I should be surprised. Maybe I'm surprised by the fact that I'm not surprised. Um, because it just feels like it continues with the trend of I don't know anyone who's going to that beer festival anymore. I don't know that there's going to be any Minnesota breweries like I could I used to be able to tell you at least five. I don't know anyone who's doing that because that's the other thing too is like you know you're not doing your local ones. I'm definitely not going to get any exposure going out to Colorado with my beer. Like it seems extra silly, and I'm not going. I don't have the money to pay to send my staff to go hang out there, and there's no return on investment on that. And so I feel like that whole festival has been looking for constriction um, for a while now. So I guess for me, I mean, I like the idea of it being outside. My One of my favorite beer festivals here is the Autumn Brew Review, which is always outside. Um, if you want to do a winter festival up here and have fun with your lines in your jockey box freezing, that's always a lot of fun. Um, but but GABF is what October, so it's not like
Yeah.
it's not like it's gonna be terrible there. It's gonna be gorgeous actually, but um, yeah, I guess to me, maybe I should be surprised by how unsurprised I was by it.
It just tracks for me, and the industry is constricting. The reason why I wanted to be out there the first time that I went was because I wanted to be out there. I wanted to go to Great American Beer Fest. I wanted to pour beer at Great American Beer Fest. Tim, you mentioned, doing these events, or maybe Mike. I can't remember who said this. Anyway, doesn't matter. Talking about doing these events and like being like you wanted to show up, you wanted to like experience it. Like we've done it now. We're veterans in the industry, and it's no longer novel and really impressive to have your beer poured and being served to other people. That's not a bad thing because that's just, every day now. Like I look at my sales report and I got hundreds of cases going out and people that are drinking the beer. And I'm it's not lost on me how I'm thrilled that people are still enjoying our beer. I every now and then sit back and go, holy shit, we sold 1,500 cases of beer to the Boca Resort. I can't believe I'm in a position to have done that and to be a part of that. Like I'm not saying I'm jaded to the fact that we make beer and other people enjoy it. But once you go and do that, what's the benefit to go and do that again? And when breweries are not opening up at the same clip, there's less of those new people coming in going, I really want to be a part of the Great American Beer Fest. It's just a bunch of salty old people like us going, yeah, I did that. That was great. I have great memories of being there, but there's no benefit to doing it. There's
Yeah,
no cultural aspect around it either. And I think that's one of the different things about, going and doing Oktoberfest in Germany, which I've never done, but I know people who have done it. That's international travel for us in the US. There's a history, a rich cultural aspect to it. Great American Beer Fest is really cool. There's nothing around it that you were like, "Oh my god, I was so happy to be there culturally." I wish there was something more to it that other than, getting awards and medals for some people, that really made that event something more than just a really cool beer fest.
You know, I I I love what you're saying there because it really shows, I think, our evolution through the industry, our maturity through the industry, in that, like, I mean, Kevin, when you and I were going through this together, like getting to do these events, like getting to go and pour beer at GABF, your own beer, was like such an accomplishment. Getting to be outside of our home state and give someone a beer that we were a part of making was such a huge thing. But like fast forwarding to today, like it almost seems like a bigger feather in your cap is the fact that you sold 1,500 cases of your beer to one place over you handed out a bunch of free samples to people. Like I look at it like our bees squeeze, like a brand that I created, like from nothing, like the name, the visual identity, like that this beer is now in public sets, and like people are picking up a beer that I made and being like, this is it going into my fridge. I love this beer. And I like that's way more of an accomplishment to me now to think than uh, going to GABF 10 years ago. Um, but talking about GABF itself, like it's one of those things that like it's shocking when you read the headline, but like when you really think about it and you read all the rest of it, like, oh no, this rating was on the wall for a while. Like, yeah, COVID happened and they canceled the 2020 and 2021 events, and then like attendance started dropping. It says here like from pre-COVID to post-COVID, like from 60,000 attendees down to 30,000, like cut in half. Then they started like bringing in NA beer, RTDs, spirits, seltzers, ciders. And then even last year, they cut out the Saturday night session from the traditional 4 sessions that they would have. So it's like, yeah, that makes sense that they would go to a smaller place and only do 2 sessions. But I mean, to go back to what Tim said, like I'm we've already it's already been like a kind of conspiracy theory that the festival, the beer competition part of this has always been a very heavily mountain and West Coast uh heavy place. Like so many winners from Colorado, California, the Pacific Northwest because they can get their beer there easier than East Coast people. But like, man, that's gonna. I think that you're going to see so much more condension of breweries attending this that are going to just be from the western half of the country and lack those smaller guys. Like when I was an attendee going around and being like, oh, who's this small guy over here? Let me try their beer because they can't afford to send people out there. They can't afford to buy plane tickets, to have lodging, to give them a stipend of like, here, go eat and drink while you're out there. Like they just can't do that anymore when they're struggling to keep their lights on.
Well, I mean, breweries aren't even. So the other thing that's been going on with GABF, and you see this, CBC, same thing, right? Craft Brewers Conference is not anywhere. It's a shell of what
Oh
it
yeah.
used to be, and part of that is because it feels like the lectures got stale, and I felt like I went to the same, uh, you know, hop creep lecture like 3 times in a row. But uh, but entries for the competition itself have been down, and entries at GABF started declining before we had the inverse relationship of closing and openings and breweries. So you already, even though we were still getting more breweries, although it was starting to level off, entries were going down, and I think they're down like 2,000 entries from what they were just a couple of years ago, which is pretty big because I think there's only like 9,000 entries in a year in the first place. And so, and part of that is it's gotten expensive as hell to even enter these competitions, and just like I don't see a big bump from going to a festival, I also don't really see a big bump from winning an award. Like at Badger Hill, our 3 most awarded beers all got discontinued within a year of winning the award.
We had an
and so
episode about this, but I think it was before
yeah,
both of you were on the show.
yeah. But you and so people are like, why would I spend all my money to go enter this competition that has now just sort of become a crapshoot? Um, and then there are a lot of like even really bigger breweries around here. Some of them that have won several awards over the last 15 years that have quit entering these things, right? So it's not just that there's less beers there or less breweries at the actual festival of pouring. It's also just less entries. Like it just does not have the excitement anymore. I think it goes along with the general trend. People are less excited. Once we were in that post novelty phase with craft beer, um, that the same reason why beer consumption is down and craft beer consumption is down, and craft has gotten condensed at the liquor store and on the tap lines and everything else is it's not just market saturation. It's just trends in the overall industry. Festivals just fall in line with that as well.
Let me ask you something, Tim, about awards because, like, I know I have an idea what the answer is going to be because we've talked ad nauseum about how GABF medals don't really matter for marketing your beer. Does a more localized competition like your Minnesota State Fair beer competition, does that you think have any sway over people in your market, or
No,
is
I
that
think
still just an empty flex?
I worked at a brewery that was is no longer around, that was not well regarded, and their first brewer had a lot of struggles, and they replaced him with someone who was actually winning local like at the Minnesota Craft Brewers Guild Awards, right? So that's all judged by your peers. He was winning awards, and that meant jack shit to customers, and the perception was still that they were a shit brewery. They weren't. He was making really good beers, but no, I don't even think local that matters. Plus, because there's so many different ways to win awards, and right, like, oh, your city pages voted best this, but it's like you ever notice how every pizza place says
The
that
best
they're
pizza
the
place.
whatever best pizza place is voted on by these readers or by this, best of Instagram awards or best of like whatever. Like every pizza place has won an award. It seems like.
Best cup of coffee.
Yeah.
You did it.
Congratulations.
Well, no, this is also interesting because we were talking about beer fest and things of that nature, and it's a smooth transition into the awards because talking about Great American Beer Fest, those awards, local awards, anything, they're meaningless unless they're backed up by something. We won a competition for a restaurant in the Keys, and the winner of the competition got to be on the menu with a blurb saying it won the competition, and it's one of our best accounts for an individual small restaurant. They order tons of beer from us. There's something there. There's something
Yeah.
tangible. There's something marketing to a customer base every day saying this won best beer at our whatever, and it works.
Yeah.
No one knows who won an award. The craft beer industry is littered with gold medalists that are no longer in business. And like you said, Tim, gold medal beers that don't get produced anymore, right? That's
Yeah.
just the
Yeah.
nature of the beast because no one knows that you won a medal. You can put it on Facebook or Instagram all you want. No one's going to see it unless you're a major brewery. And two, how many people are really going to care and say, man, I got to go get that wit beer. It won a gold medal. Do you like
Yeah.
wit beer? No, I've never drank one I've liked ever, but I'm going to go find this and I'm going to drink and it's going to be my new favorite. That's no one's ever said that.
Yeah.
So, and they've also, to your point, Tim, talking about like, the pizza thing, like we've, they've, they've figured out the equation. Every single marketing company is feeding articles to local newspapers going, the best local brewer. We end up on these best local brewery list all the time. It's just someone writing an article to promote the brewery that they are paid to promote and feeding an article to an algorithm.
Mhm.
And then someone posts up, did you know that we're the 5th best brewery in Palm Beach County? No, we're not. Someone just they pulled quotes from Yelp and made this list together, and they've realized they can do this to promote their businesses. There's nothing genuine about most of these things. And even the competitions that are realistically arbitrary. I mean, when we entered our beer in like Great American Beer Fest for our wit beer, we kept getting back like, nothing wrong with this beer, too many great selections. Basically, like,
Yeah.
this is a really good wit beer, but there's so many wit beers it just didn't go on to the next round, right? So there's nothing wrong with our beer. It's just that there's a lot of great beers out there. We know there's an arbitrary nature to those on their face. Now we've got, Billy Joe Bob going, I'm going to do the local homebrew competition in Florida, and I'm going to rate all the beers and I'm going to give out medals. They don't know what the hell they're talking about. They don't know anything about good beer, but they put together a thing. So even if the public doesn't know those things are happening, they've been so desensitized to it, it doesn't matter anymore.
Well, and I mean, so I can think of a brewery in this area that has won a lot of awards, has multiple GABF medals, has World Beer Cup medals, has US Open medals, uh, and it's one of the most boring breweries. And their beer list is really boring and safe, and they make really good beers, but I don't like. You're not gonna get people in there because they're making really good beer as opposed to making beer that gets people excited. Those are two different things.
Yeah. There's a brewery down here who is closing very soon, who won a gold medal at GABF just this past October. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Meanwhile,
the
biggest hype breweries around here haven't won a medal in Steve's homebrew competition. Like,
they don't submit to
yeah.
those things.
Well, even the ones that they do submit to, they're not winning. It's funny. Like it's fun, right? Like I've won medals before. They're good. It feels like it feels good, especially with like one when it's judged by your peers or something like that. It's a good pat on the back. But to Kevin's point of there being stakes on that, now not only can that be marketed against, but that's a marketing tool for the restaurant as much as it is the brewery, right? They're the ones really doing the marketing for that. That's what's driving the sales, frankly, right? It's not that you guys get to brag, hey, we won this award at this restaurant. It's that the restaurant said, hey, this is the one that we said is the best, and so now it's on here, right?
Yeah.
Like that, that's a so much more effective way to be able to market against, that, hey, we've got good beer, but that's the part of brand that lives outside of your marketing space.
Yeah.
And that's a lot harder to be able to wrangle.
The one other thing that I wanted to mention about Great American Beer Fest was you also and Tim, you mentioned like the ebb and flow of the industry and all this stuff. People are just aging out.
Yeah.
The people who got into craft beer and said, I want to do, these things. I want to go to Great American Beer Fest every year. That's like my special time. It's my me time that I get to go do my own thing. Or maybe your thing was Extreme Beer Fest in Boston. I did it like 3 years in a row, 4 years in a row. And I think 2 of them as an actual pourer and 2 of them just as a patron. That was a big deal to me. But you get to the point where that's not either for an individual, you've got life obligations that bring you away from that, or people just age out and they're not traveling anymore. And instead of younger people going, can't wait to go to Great American Beer Fest, they're like, why would you want to do that? I got all the beer I need here. There's nothing special. These people have all gone to these think about Great American Beer Fest when it started. Was there a time in the beginning of the phase that really got people into it? Could you go to a beer fest every single weekend in any decent sized city and have 30 different breweries, each pouring 4 different beers? No. If you wanted to do that, you had to go to this Great American Beer Festival, and you actually got great beer by a bunch of really, really good breweries. Now you can go to a bunch of mediocre, piss poor beer fests, most of them serving not beer, and you can do that, a mile and a half from your house, and you can do that every month if you want.
Mhm.
So the dilution of that paired with people aging out and just not being that impressed or wanting to go do that, we don't have the customer base being reintroduced and being reinvigorated to go do this thing because they've got other stuff to do. And will it rebound 10 years from now? Very well could. But for now, younger people are just, they're not going, man, I can't wait to go to freaking Denver in October to try 400 beers. They can think about 10,000 other things they'd rather do. And by the way, I love beer. The beers I've drank tonight, by the way, just to give you an update on my plethora, I drank the Pils, delicious Irish lager from Great Lakes, fantastic. Dortmunder Gold, always good. Just cracked open the Irish ale. I've enjoyed every one of these beers. I've thought about them. I'm impressed with them. I really still love this industry, and I love these beers so much. And I'm not fucking going to Great American Beer Fest.
It, I'll, I'll one up you there, Kevin. I really love beer. I really love the beer industry. I really love Denver. I really love Colorado. I love going to those places. I never want to go to that festival ever again. Like I'm sure someone listening to this is going, "You're fucking jaded." Like, yes, I know, but there's probably so many other people who don't work in the like. I mean, Kevin and I knew so many people who were so into beer who didn't work in beer, never have worked in beer, used to go to like travel for beer festivals and stuff like this, who don't do that anymore.
Mhm.
Like but still travel, still go to places. Like I still see like Kevin, I don't know if you've heard this name in many years, but Jeff Pollock, a friend of ours who we used
Love
to
Jeff.
hang out at
Yeah.
tastings all the time. I still see him from time to time at Copper Point. Like they still travel, but they don't do what they used to do. And like everyone's kind of being like that. Like they have a local place that they like to hang out, our brewery, and like they get to take stuff home and enjoy at their home. Like they still enjoy the beer, they still enjoy the travel, but they're not doing a beer fest, like traveling around a beer fest anymore.
Yeah, I even liken it to home brewing, right? Home brewing. I'm not saying home brewing is a dead industry, but it is significantly a shell of what it was even 6 years ago. The way people enjoy beer as a hobby, just from beginning to end, has changed, right? And a lot of that does
Yeah.
have to do with now there's 17 breweries within a 5 mile radius that I didn't have before, right? And so I, you know, GABF or even the big ones here, Alpines North, Autumn Brew Review, those things. That was my chance to really go out and try all of these things. But it's like now, no, I have all these breweries around me. People used to get really excited about new breweries. Now, when people ask me like, "Hey, Tim, have you tried this? Have you tried that?" I'm like, I have not even heard of that. Right? Like, part of that is ever since COVID, I feel like everyone's world got a little bit smaller. Um, uh, but uh, at least they're kind of their day to day, and you knew what you could go to, what you didn't, and people really got really kind of hyper local in a lot of ways. But part of it is just the way people's relationship with beer as a hobby. Not, I'm not saying like their relationship with alcohol or the relationship with drinking, but just beer as a hobby is just different than it was, right? Um, so it's not just that it's not just that we're old jaded guys, and it's not just even just aging out. It's just, hey, remember Pogs? Like,
Yeah.
like,
It's
like
it's Alf, and
hobby,
he's back in Pog form.
yeah. Oh, what a reference. But hobbies just go through phases too, and right now we're in a down phase for beer as a whole as a hobby.
That is such a great point, Tim. I think everything we're talking about, it really speaks to like the multidimensional aspect of this, right? Like I think it's really easy to put all this on, like, there's too many breweries, right? Like, we talk about it all the time, and they're aging out and all that. It's this meeting of all these things happening at the same time. But I will say, if you want to get simplistic with it, and once again, you don't have to, but if you want to boil something down, when things are in overabundance, when they're not rare, they're less special.
Mhm.
They're less interesting. There's a local sushi place, an omakase place that Allie and I have been to twice. It's like $100 a head, and you gotta get a bottle of sake, and that's like $200. It's an expensive thing to do. We've only ever done a lunch because, like, the dinner is way too expensive for us. And we've been there twice, and we love it. And there's like 12 people, and it's this tailored dinner. It's different every single time. We love sushi. We love being served something. I love going to a place and not ordering off a menu and just bring me stuff. I want to try new things. It is amazing. If I ate at that place every day, I would want to stop going.
Mhm.
It wouldn't be special anymore. If instead of that one omakase sushi place, there was 10,000 of them and every place on every corner, I wouldn't want to go anymore. It's special because it's unique. And for years, beer and the beer culture was unique because you were trying something that other people weren't drinking. You were going to these little small breweries and having an Irish red ale for the first time or what have you. And we've bloated ourselves to such an extent that there's nothing special or unique about a beer fest. There's nothing special or unique about a medal. There's nothing special or unique about any of these things. And we're surprised that the industry is shrinking when it's just an overabundance of everything. I think eventually the landscape will shift. But in my opinion, and once again, trying to make this, a simple explanation, I think that's what a lot of this has to do with, is just that you used to have to track all this stuff down and know a guy in Portland that would get you a beer. And now it's like everybody's making that cherry stout and bourbon barrels. It's not special.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sometimes your most local brewery was like 30 minutes away from you. Like for some people, like obvious, like bigger city people, like you had more options, but like for all intents and purposes, we're just a fucking suburban metropolis here in Palm Beach County. And like, yeah, you had like two breweries and some people had to travel like a good distance to get to one. But like once more and more breweries started popping up, and they weren't trying to be like a neighborhoody place. They were all trying to take over the fucking world. Like that was definitely a big issue, is like everyone wanted to be big. And like, oh, instead of leaning into being like, hey, your neighborhood brewery or brew pub or something like that, everyone wanted to go big. Everyone wanted to go strong. And then like, okay, you can only have so much of that. And we didn't see that shit.
Mike, we used to drive to Vero Beach, an hour and a half north, to go to Vine and Barley
Port St.
to
Lucie,
get,
but yes.
or sorry, was that Vero? I'm sorry, Port St. Lucie, my bad. Maybe I'm thinking about Vero for some other reason. But we to Port St. Lucie, an hour and a half north, to a beer bar that got beer out of our local distribution footprint, the JJ Taylor footprint, because we could get like the oatmeal raisin cookie beer from Brooklyn. And we
Yeah.
get a growler and we take it home.
Yeah.
And we do this once a month just to get beer. Is there anyone still doing that? Now, maybe they are, and we just don't know them. But it's so, there's so much, it's just not necessary. And when it stops being special, it stops being special.
Yeah.
So in the last year, I have compared craft beer to New Balance sneakers and now Pogs. So I'm now trying to figure out what my next analogy for craft beer is. But I've said that we're your dad's lawn mowing sneakers, and that we are a game that never really entirely made sense from your childhood. So I got to keep on thinking about what my next one is. But yeah, I think you're right. Like it sounds sad to be like, we're just not special anymore. But yeah, what's the saying? Ubiquity breeds contempt. Like I hope that's not quite where we're at, but at the same time, it's just to put a bow on this whole idea of festivals. Um, I mean, I think to me, I'll sum up my thoughts. Been there, done that.
I love the idea of summing up our thoughts, and I think I'll leave it to Mike to make the last declaration before we move on to the last call. But I have a proposition for you guys, and you can shoot this down if you want. A local beer fest. You handpick 10, 15 local breweries, and local, I mean, within the state. Everyone brings one beer that they're really proud of. They bring plenty of it. It's small, it's intimate. People are there that are passionate about trying a new, interesting. It could be like a legacy style. It could be, a Dortmunder or a Grodzisky. It could be whatever it is. And people are there to talk about the beer. Mike had a very similar idea with this, with a kind of like a dinner food pairing concept that we talked about like 6 months ago, and we've never brought it up again. Which I still think about it sometimes, Mike, just so you know.
It wasn't even
But
6 months ago, but
it feels like it. But that's the kind of thing that would excite me, where you're like really, it's special. It's something that is creating an experience for people, and it will never be scalable to 3,000 people. Never. Never. You will never get people to fly in for it, most likely, but you get a local community of a couple hundred people that really love this stuff, and you give them something that is unique and interesting and something they can actually talk about and something they feel special for being a part of. That's the kind of thing I would want to be involved in. Maybe I'm the only one, but that's my beer fest.
okay. I've thought of one too. Uh, similar starting premise as you. You get let's say 15 to 20 breweries, one beer, and it has to be something special. And each brewery is paired up with a charity of their choice. And attendees pay $10 to come in, pretty much gets you the glass. Then, to get a pour, you have to make a donation to the charity. Right there at the table, whether that be cash into a jar or scanning a QR code with someone and making a donation of like a recommended donation amount, you get a pour of that beer. You can go around. There's little past hors d'oeuvres around, but to get the beers, you got to make a donation to the charity. You'd like that beer enough? Go back. You can make another donation to that charity. And I'm sure that this is a terrible idea financially, but it's just something that I think is a way of helping community by like forcing breweries to make a connection with a charity. Like something that I feel like a lot of places are afraid to do for some goddamn reason. Like, I mean, I've always looked at you guys, Kevin, like with your relationship with Making Strides that you've had for what 10 years almost. Uh, and that's such a fantastic relationship, and it will force people to do that. It'll force people to have to separate money and give it to a charity. Like they think that they're buying a beer, but like really you're helping a charity and getting a reward for it in the form of a beer. So that's my beer fest that I have just created off the fucking top of my head here by listening to you, Kevin.
Happy to spark your inspiration.
Tim, have you created one?
Well, I'll tell you one thing that I always wanted to do, related to a beer fest. But so I don't know if you guys saw on your social medias, kind of in the midst of all the chaos going on here, then Powderhorn Park, the neighborhood where Renee Good was shot, or the park there has an annual sled thing, and it's sort of like Flugtag, right? Like you make these wacky ass sleds and you go down a hill, type of thing, right? Like one looked like the Kool-Aid Man sliding through a brick wall, and one was like a bowling ball bowling, and all the bowling pins were different fascists and knocked them over. Um, it was really awesome stuff. I've always wanted to do, especially because we are the city of lakes. I've always wanted to do a brewer's regatta where you make a boat, but it has to be 100% out of brewery parts, right? So it's like, a pallet with like kegs ratchet strapped onto the bottom to be the pontoons or things like that, and do a little brewer's regatta boat race thing connected to a beer festival. So the beer is almost secondary, and it's the event that's more kind of the fun thing.
There,
Uh, yeah,
there is literally a man-made lake behind our brewery. Come down, let's do
I
this.
think it's a great idea. Wouldn't that be so
It
much
would be a
fun?
short race. It's a very short race, but I mean, it kind of
well,
has to be.
well, I was going to say we we might not. We'll see how seafaring our vessels are anyway. But yes, I've always thought a
Uh,
brewery regatta of a boat's made
there's
100%
also the
for.
potential that there's alligators in that lake too. So
Well,
that's something that Tim doesn't have to
Well,
worry about.
no, that is true. Maybe like 3,000-year-old sturgeon. But no. No alligators. Nothing's going to eat me in a city lake. I'll just probably get um uh
Very cold.
heavy metal poisoning. But
Uh,
but yeah, that's mine.
so I actually have one more question related to beer fests that before we drop this topic. I want to know about your last beer fest experience because I feel like for all of us it's been a while. So I want to know what was the last beer fest that you remember working, and what was it like? Uh, Tim?
Boy, this like I said, I think it was 2019. It was All Points North. My favorite thing about All Points North at the time, um, All Points. So the Minnesota Brewers Guild used to put on Autumn Brew Review, and then they added in Winterfest, and then they eventually added in All Points North, which is up in Duluth, and it was fun because it was a chance for most people in the cities, since that's where the bulk of the breweries are, to actually get out of town. It's at Bayfront Park. Great, like, music festival area, great just open field right there on Lake Superior. Um, and I at the time, the Brewers Guild actually put it where there was a technical conference on Friday, and then the festival was like Saturday, and that was the big general public thing. And so I loved being able to go. It was actually a really really good technical conference. That one had some really good. Uh, I want to say even Ken Grossman was at that one that year. Anyway, I and the problem is that like especially that they kind of had to do it because like all the brewers would go like hard and heavy and really hit up Duluth, something fierce on Friday, and then everyone was hungover as shit trying to pour in the hot sun, because there's no shade on in Bayfront Park, other than the tent that you brought, and it's still miserably hot because despite what people think in Minnesota, we still get really miserable in the summer. Um, so and this was, like I said, probably 2019. When I started, we could bring 4 half barrels to that thing. By that time, it was probably down to maybe 2 half barrels and 2 slims. But we could do 4 half barrels and kick them all. So nice big fun festival. But I remember I did not hit it up that hard the night before just because I had done that before and made that mistake. But I remember looking around and realizing, A, you know what? Half my friends aren't here. Half of my industry friends aren't here anymore because half the brewers and owners have decided to opt out, and I'm, saved by the bell. The new class of people is all here. Um, and that's when I knew I just it was time for me to retire from beer fests. So I submitted my paperwork to the league office and haven't looked back.
So you became eligible for the Hall of Fame last year. Did you reach the 5% minimum to stay on the ballot? I don't know.
I don't think I'm gonna stay on the ballot. I had a very solid, serviceable career, but I don't know that I ever put up Hall of Fame numbers.
So my last beer fest that I worked was actually the first beer fest that I worked for my current employer, and that was the Jupiter Craft Brewers Festival in 2020, January 2020. The world was on the brink of changing for fucking ever, and that I went and worked that festival. I had attended. They do a beer and food event the night before that used to be called Field of
Field of
Beers.
Beers, yeah.
Yeah, because now it's called Toast on the Coast because they changed the location of it. But I attended Field of Beers as a attendee the night before and got pretty well done, and then worked the beer fest the next day and really wasn't in the mood for drinking a whole lot. And so many people were like, I hadn't worked a beer fest in South Florida in probably a couple years at that point because I lived in Philadelphia for a year. I had left the previous brewery like 6 months before we moved to Philly. So it had been a while since some of these people had seen me, and they're like, "Oh, come on over to my booth and get some beer." Like, okay, I'll be there maybe eventually. But man, I couldn't wait for that thing to be over. Like, was just wearing sunglasses and so tired and so hungover and just wanted it to be done. And I thankfully have not had to work a beer festival since then. So going on 6 years strong. Yeah. 6 years sober of beer fests.
So you're leaving it to me, and I'm the most boring person here because my last beer fest is the Cocoa Beach Beer Fest that I did last year, this time, that I will be doing in 2 weeks. Because I do that beer fest, and I did it last year because they support Survive First, which is a charity that provides mental health assistance for first responders. And this is an organization that my wife is connected with via the program that she's building at her university to train mental health counselors to work with first responders. And I, got connected with these people. I was invited to do it, so I did it. In fact, my whole family worked the fest. Me, Jad, and Allie did it, and we're doing it again. At least I'm doing it. I'm not sure if they're going to join me again in 2 weeks. So that was, my last event, and I'm doing another one in a couple days. So boring. Your guys' responses were much more fun.
No, like
Yours was much more relevant.
And has such a nice touch to it. Like it's a more positive spin than what this podcast is usually.
I will say that I do that for personal reasons, right? The brewery gets, and I'll say the brewery gets nothing out of it. We're not going to sell any beer up there. It is literally, we're doing it because of the thing that it supports. But other than that, I think I probably did like a local Boca beer fest in like Meisner Park for like 8 hours and just hated my life for every single solitary second of it.
All right.
That tracks more for our podcast.
There you go. Brought it right back onto the rickety tracks that this podcast is always on. Like no funding on our infrastructure here. All right, let's head into last calls, the point in the show where we give each other an unspecific amount of time to talk about whatever it is that we want, beverage related or not. The only rules is that it is uninterrupted, unopposed, unobjected, and I swear one episode this this year we will do what Tim has wanted for like ever, and to have an all last calls episode where we get to respond. It's oops, all last calls. Um, this is not the one. So how about I think we ended with Tim last episode, so let's start with Tim this episode, so that we all
Yeah.
have to have the unfortunate ability to have to follow him.
So since the last episode, then these wonderful fascist pigs that have occupied our metropolitan area here have brutally murdered another innocent life, another observer. I don't think that's a secret to anyone. I hope that's not a secret. I hope that enough of the world is watching. I think all of you are. And last Friday we had a general strike. Literally over 600 businesses in the Twin Cities shut down for the day, which was amazing. I skipped work. I went to the Whipple, protested in the morning, and then I picked up a friend of mine that you guys might be familiar with, Andy Rulin from Bad Weather, and we went down to the march downtown, and it was incredible. I don't know what the real numbers were. I've heard anywhere from 20,000 to 50,000. If you've seen any of the drone footage, if you've seen any of the pictures, none of that was AI. It was amazing. It was like we were not even near the front, and when we got done, there were people that were basically just still marching, and it went from U.S. Bank Stadium to Target Center, which, if you know, covers most of downtown. It took us about 2 hours, and there were people that were still going on when we had finished. So we felt, it was a completely incident-free thing. We felt like we just felt good, right? We felt like we can tell the tide is turning. Like we just showed the world what Minneapolis, St. Paul, what the Twin Cities are about, right? That we're united here. We care about our neighbors. We're seeing old Somali women handing out sambusa and Somali tea. We're seeing so many people from so many different cultures joining in this, and it was peaceful, and it was fun, and it was silly, and the signs were amazing. There was a little kid with a sign of Greg Bavino's face in a toilet and said, "Eat shit, little man." It was the funniest thing. A lot of great stuff. We all left on a high, right? Like, I don't want to say like I giggled a lot at that thing, right? It was really encouraging. We really felt like things were going, and then we wake up Saturday morning to the tragic news of Mr. Petty's death, and it's amazing. Like, it felt like a big punch to the gut. But the thing I love about people here is that it strengthened our resolve, right? It didn't take the wind out of our sails. It really gut punch. It knocked the wind out of us, but it did not take the wind out of our sails. It just made us even stronger, even more vigilant. And I don't want people to lose sight of this, right? We can tell the tide is turning. We got Bavino out. The White House is in shambles. Miller and Nome and Trump are all contradicting each other. But I want us to step on the gas and push this thing through. And then I saw today, Bruce Springsteen put out a song. He wrote a song on Saturday, recorded it yesterday, released it today. I've always had a weird, interesting relationship with Bruce Springsteen. Like, I've enjoyed Bruce Springsteen's music, but I've always felt like he's the type of artist that I should enjoy a lot more than I probably do. And is this song revolutionary from a song standpoint? No. Were we listening to it in the quality lab at work today, and did I tear up? Yeah, absolutely. And he mentions Renee Good, and Alex Preddy. And I was like, well, fuck, they can't kill anybody else now. Bruce Springsteen's gonna have to write another song. Like they can't, they can't do that. Um, uh, but very, very weird. I want us to go back to uh, uh, "Sad Hookers on Christmas" on Hennepin Avenue songs from Tom Waits. I want those songs to be what we're about. I want the songs that like Prince uh, wrote about, but his band was the Revolution, and so maybe he knew what the fuck was coming. Maybe he knew what we're talking about. Um, So I guess really my big thing is thank you guys that the world is watching. Also, Maine, we see you. We're here. So once again, sorry to give you guys this to follow, but it's on my mind 24/7 right now, so it's kind of hard for me to think about anything else. So once again, fuck ice and San Dimas football rules.
I just want to. I love you, Tim, and to see. Let me back up a little bit because I've joked around with you before as being
great. No, I'm sorry, Mike. It would be great if you said like, "I love you, Tim." Let's back up a little bit. I fucking hate you. I'm sorry. By the way, you did not say that you were starting your last call, so I can interrupt.
That is true. That is true. Okay. All right. I am starting now. Tim, I have joked around with you a lot in the past about how Philadelphia and Minneapolis, Minnesota, maybe as a whole, have these similarities and very glaring differences. I have taken the concept of Minnesota nice and thought of it as like it's such this passive aggressiveness towards people where like Minnesota is nice and Philadelphia is kind. We will give you the shirt off our back, but if you do something dumb, we're going to let you fucking know. And I have absolutely loved that Minnesota has taken off of those Minnesota nice gloves and said, fuck that fucking shit. And it is so like reminiscent of the spirit of Philadelphia to me, the people of Philadelphia, your artists, your businesses, your communities have just come together and collectively said, fuck this shit. You're going to have to go through us. And I love it so much. And seeing like the demonstrations in Philly with signs saying, you fuck with Minneapolis, you fuck with Philly. Like we are with you. And I love it so goddamn much. And it is, and then, yeah, today, Bruce Springsteen puts out a song, Streets of Minneapolis. He had Streets of Philadelphia too as a song. And it's like, okay, he pretty much like makes another connection to the cities that we love so much. And yeah, I want you to, I feel this for you, but like, God, I am with you and Andy and Eric and every person that I know in Minneapolis and the Twin Cities and people who I don't know. I fucking back you all up. I try to share what I can. I donate what I can. I've donated to a number of places over the last few weeks. When I can, I'll drop some of those links in the show description for this because I think that that's extremely important. If you want to financially help and support what's going on up there. But God, I love how your city has taken off the gloves. Like, and I hope that that continues for fucking ever, because I used to always think that Chicago was the Philly of the Midwest. Minneapolis, you are really changing my opinion about that, and I love it. So please keep staying this way. I can't wait till we play in the Field of Dreams game this coming baseball season, Twins versus Phillies in the cornfield. It'll be a fun little rivalry for our cities, and fucking keep going. Yes, do not get off the gas. I know people are they're so happy about Bovino, but they sent the fucking what's his name Hammond. They sent the big boss. Now, like, don't let off the gas. Keep fucking going. Kevin?
So I'm going to shift gears here, but I just want to make sure, and I think everyone knows where my heart is, that it's not because this is not part of almost every. My wife and I have a conversation about this almost every single day, and it's something that's on my mind constantly. I think about Tim every day and the good work that he's doing, and just the amount of people who are living these realities every single day, while I get to live in privilege and drink my Conway's Irish Stout here and do a podcast. So this is definitely on my mind. But I will say this. Before the end of the year, I started what I planned to be a trilogy of talking about music issues on Last Call. Then we had the holiday break, and then the federal government decided to be overtly fascist instead of just subvertly fascist, and it blew everything fucking up. So I blame them for me not being able to, finish off my trilogy the way I wanted to. We are about, when this episode comes out, the Super Bowl will not have happened yet. And this entire thing with Bad Bunny performing at the Super Bowl is one of the most hilarious and depressing things that you can see. Not depressing like people being murdered in the streets depressing, but just depressing that our fellow man is so ignorant and so petty that they don't realize that you're not supposed to like who performs at the Super Bowl. I haven't liked anyone performing in the Super Bowl for years. I don't care about who performs at the halftime of the Super Bowl because it's irrelevant. It doesn't matter. And listen, by the way, if your big thing is that this person is a foreigner, they're not. If your big thing is that they speak in Spanish and they rap and rhyme and the lyrics are in a different language, well, I mean, I can understand. That's never happened before where an extremely popular song or artist became wildly popular in the US. No one ever listened to Richie Valens to do La Bamba. That was never popular in this country. We never had Feliz Navidad became a Christmas classics singing in Spanish. We didn't have Bamboleo by the Gypsy Kings just infect all kinds of radio airwaves when I was younger. Oh, wait a minute. We had all those things. And you didn't give a fuck then. You didn't give a fuck when awkward white people were dancing to the Macarena, because no one should give a shit when something is happening in a different language. It doesn't matter. Music is about tonality. Music is about how it makes you feel. And Bad Bunny is one of the most popular recording artists in the world. That's why he is performing at the Super Bowl, because it's a world event that they're trying to appeal to. Javier Baez is the shortstop, sometimes center fielder for the Detroit Tigers. His walk-up song a couple years ago was a song called Los Pits by Bad Bunny. My son loves baseball, loves the Detroit Tigers. And we were trying to listen to like walk-up songs. Like we made a walk-up song playlist of all like his favorite players' walk-up songs and songs he wanted to use for his walk-up song. Los Pits from from Javi Baez from Bad Bunny went on his list. He listens to that song constantly. My son is 7 years old. He doesn't give a flying fuck that it's in Spanish. He just likes the goddamn song. And he asked me, hey, Dad, can we listen to some Bad Bunny? He's not making a political statement. He just likes music. And if you find yourself truly caring about who performs the Super Bowl, first and foremost, you might want to consider self-immolation. That's burning yourself alive for the people who would, feel that way. I just want to describe things a little bit more simply for you because you probably don't have really good grasp of the English language. But you might want to consider just removing yourself from the equation. Because as we get older, we're not supposed to understand popular music. If Kid Rock were performing at the Super Bowl, I find him one of the most deplorable people on the planet. He's basically proof that there is not a benevolent God at the center of all things. He's awful. He's a trashy, untalented, uneducated, ignorant human being that the fact that he's popular disproves most of popular religions. But if he was performing at the Super Bowl, do you know how many Facebook posts I would put up? 0. Because who the fuck cares who performs at the fucking Super Bowl? I know I'm preaching to the choir. If you've stayed with United as We Drink through all of this and you're still listening to us, you're either an ally or you find whatever we do passably entertaining. I know there's no one that's going to be changed by any of this and any of the more important stuff that Tim and Mike were just talking about. But maybe share this with your aunts and uncles. Like, who the fuck cares? Stop giving a shit and maybe focus on things that actually matter more. That's it.
I was really hoping that Kevin was going to say self-immolation in Spanish as well. But
I'm not that talented. Allie, how do you say that? She speaks Spanish.
Damn,
I Google translated it, but I have a feeling that it's not correct because they probably don't have a direct translation for that. Do you want to plug anything, Kevin? How one may be able to set themselves on fire?
No, I mean, I will plug not setting yourself on fire. Listen, no one needs to die over their ignorance, but just consider changing your mind. That's my plug.
What about you, Tim?
The one that I sent to you, I know what you donated to, Mike, and I'm very, very happy and very proud of you for doing that, and thank you very much. But one that I feel like is maybe getting overlooked in all of this as a big resource. We're obviously looking out for our immigrant neighbors who are basically having to shelter in place and need food and toiletries and all those things. But one thing that I feel is maybe getting overlooked at this is our unhoused neighbors. A large percentage of the unhoused neighbors in our community are immigrants. And Sanctuary Supply Depot here in town is absolutely one of my all-time favorites. Right now, I know they're in need of winter gear. I don't know if you guys know, it is not warm here.
I've heard.
I've heard rumor.
We had, I think it was something like 66 consecutive hours below zero. Last Friday was awesome, but it was like a 20 below wind chill. And so those people are in desperate need of help. I've donated a lot of my gently used camping gear along with, going and buying a shit ton of hand warmers or gloves or whatever they're needing. So to me, that is charity. That all of these other things, that's one I don't want to get overlooked. So if people want to take a look at Sanctuary Supply Depot and see what they can do to help the unhoused community in Minneapolis as well. I want to just throw that plug in.
I'll have a link to. They have a link tree with a number of different ways that people can donate to them. I'll have that in the show notes on our website, unitedwedrink.com. So along with other ones there as well. So please do go there and check that out.
Mike, can I just say one quick thing? We can always do more, and Allie and I, my wife and I, my family, we're well off by any standards that you can measure, and we have donated to both the charities you guys suggested. I'm not saying that's like flex. What I'm saying is that we could do more. We absolutely could. But if you're in a position where you can give $5, do $5. Like this does not have to be, if you can't donate $100 and all of a sudden like you don't do it. Like this is, if you have it to spare and you can do it and it's a small amount, every bit counts. Sorry to try to steal your jump in there.
No,
but I think it's
thank
important
you.
to mention.
Thank you.
By all means. I'm going to plug the little known screamo band from Atlanta from the early 2000s by the name of I Would Set Myself on Fire for You. I just, for some reason, I feel like it was relevant. They only put out 2 albums. They were both good. I saw them play in a living room at someone's house in Delray Beach back in like the early 2000s here. So
no, that's
always one of my favorite band names of all time.
Only two albums, and the first one was Screamo. Second one, light jazz.
I do have to mention this just because you mentioned the band name. My dad once sent me a text message that said, "I just realized that there was a band called Five Finger Death Punch." Kevin, why is there a band called Five Finger Death Punch? I don't know why.
I've heard that story a few times, and it's still one of my favorite Jim stories.
This is perfect. What else can you do with that?
If you want to support our show, head on over to our website, unitedwedrink.com. Go to the Brands We Love page, and there's some stuff that if you use those links and buy stuff, we get a little kickback from that goes towards hosting fees and stuff like that. Athletic Brewing is on there. If you're partaking in dry January, you want to continue on with that and get NA beer shipped to your house, they do that, and they have like tons of awesome stuff over there. Good friend of Kevin and I's, Tim, is a brewer for them up in Connecticut. We should have him on the show sometime. They just completed like the construction of their new facility in LA. So like incredible capacity for making NA beer. We also have our store, unitedwedrink.com/store, with shirts, buttons, stickers, patches, blah, 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 blah. All of that stuff. Thank you, everyone, once again for joining us. We'll see you again in a couple weeks with a brand new episode. Minnesota, stay strong. Fuck ice. Cheers.
Fuck ice.